Hi folks, I'm Eric, Maker GM. I'm a maker and a GM. By GM I mean game master. I do a lot of role-playing games and that kind of thing as a hobby, and I usually end up game mastering because finding groups can be really hard, so I found it's easiest to just make your own group. If we break down that Maker GM title a little bit more, Maker, I love making things. I make a lot of stuff, but I am notorious for starting off projects and never finishing them. That's kind of a problem. I end up with all kinds of half-finished projects all over the place, maybe even some three-quarters finished ones. But finished projects, a little bit more rare. So part of why I'm doing this, in fact, probably the major reason that I'm doing this, is to inspire myself to actually finish these projects. Like, get something actually made and out there in the world where it's serving a purpose and people can see it. So I've decided to start making videos, putting them up on YouTube, running some projects and stuff like that, and making that public, because I'm hoping that by having some public pressure, that'll actually work on projects to finish, rather than just getting them most of the way there, or part of the way there, or just barely started. So, in order to do this project, I know that I'm going to need a little bit of equipment. And since a lot of my hobbies are things like building scale models and painting miniatures and that kind of thing, I know I'm going to be doing a lot of top-down video, where with the camera kind of looking, down at the work surface where I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And finding a way to shoot that on video is a little bit difficult. It's not incredibly hard, but it's a little difficult. Right now I'm stuck with a tripod that if I try to shoot top down, I'm going to end up with the legs of the tripod in the shot, or I'm going to have to zoom in really close and end up with a very small working area, that sort of thing. So I started looking for a solution to that problem. And the solution I found is actually a little extendable bar that mounts on top of a tripod, and your camera mounts on the bar facing downward. And then you can slide that bar back and forth to push the camera out further from the tripod to give you enough space so you don't have those annoying tripod legs in the shot. Seemed to me like a great solution, but the problem is they start at like $50, and it's really simple piece of equipment. Now there's probably something I'm not seeing here. There's probably something that I'm not, realizing about why they're so expensive. But I think a big part of the price is just because it's for photography. And photography is a very expensive hobby. People who get into it spend a lot of money on lenses and cameras and stuff like that. They're used to shelling out a lot of money for equipment. And I think there's probably a premium stacked on top of that, the price of that actual product, just because of the fact that it's a photography product. So they figure, if this is a little block with a bar that slides back and forth through it, and the bar is threaded on one end, and will charge, 15, 20 times what it actually costs us to make it. So, today I'm setting out to build my own horizontal camera extender bar to go on top of my tripod. Okay, I'm back. So, I went up to my local makerspace, Nova Labs, which is in Reston, Virginia, and I came up with a solution to let my camera film top down. So if you're not familiar with what a makerspace is, it's a place where a group of people get together. Some makerspaces are set up on a for-profit model, others are non-profits. Nova Labs, where I go, is a non-profit, and it's more of a community thing rather than some people making space available to other people. It's everyone working together. So what we do is we have this space where any of us can go and we can use the tools that are there. So we're able to have a lot of tools that most people wouldn't have the room for or wouldn't have the money for at home. So if you're living in an apartment, neighbors get mad if you have a bandsaw running all the time or a table saw or something like that. But if you go to a makerspace, you can make things there and then bring them home. So at Nova Labs, we have a wood shop, we have a metal shop, we have some laser cutters. There is a big vacuum forming machine that I built, which we'll probably talk about in a later segment or a later video. We've got 3D printers, just a whole lot of different tools. We've got an electronics bench, and just all these different things. There's a big group of people who do blacksmithing. They've built their own forges and things like that. It's really cool stuff. So I went up to the makerspace. On the way, I made a quick stop. And what I came up with is this. So what this is, I've got a little piece of angle iron here. And that angle iron was just a piece of scrap that I drilled and tapped. So the standard screw that goes in the bottom of video cameras or SLRs or anything like that to hold them on a tripod is 1/4 inch 20 coarse thread. So I bought a piece of 1/4 inch 20 coarse thread all thread. That cost me $1.99 including taxes. Went up to the lab. Got this little piece of scrap angle iron, drilled and tapped it for those threads. Found 2 nuts that were just sitting around, and instead of paying $50 to have something for my camera to film down at a surface, I paid $2 and some work. Now, there are some obvious shortcomings to this. For one, because this hole is threaded, in order to change the length, I have to sit here and do this, and it takes a long time. With a professional one, I would have a little thumb screw that I would loosen up, and I would just slide this either direction. It would be very quick. This is time consuming. But since I won't need to be changing it a lot, it's not a big deal for me. Another issue is this is kind of bendy, and so I expect that the camera is going to waggle a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit of motion. I'm not making professional quality videos right now. I'm not too concerned about that. This is more a proof of concept, get something working today kind of job. So I'll probably make something that's a lot stronger and works better. So I'll probably eventually take something, a block of steel or a block of aluminum, and instead of an angle, and bore a hole through it so that the rod can slide. Instead of using this rod, I'll probably use some kind of steel or aluminum tubing. Instead of just having the screw on the end, I'll probably 3D print with the help of one of my friends some kind of little bracket for my camera to clip into, so that I can pop it out easily to change batteries and that kind of thing. So I already have some ideas for improvement, but meanwhile, instead of waiting for several days for shipping, or having to run around to camera shops and hopefully find one that actually has a horizontal extender for the camera, and maybe not have any luck with that, instead of all of that, I should be up and moving today. And only took me a couple hours, and about an hour of that was driving, so not too bad. I also wasted some time just talking with some of my friends up at the makerspace, but that's part of the purpose there. It's community, right? So by talking to those guys, I got a couple more ideas on how I might improve this in the next iteration. Meanwhile, I have something that's finished and ready to go for kind of a prototype initial use. Okay, so here you can see the bracket is attached to my tripod, and I've got the post extending out. That's where I'll attach the camera. Obviously I can't film it when it's attached, so I'm holding it now. And then I've got it extending off the other way, so if I need to, I can put counterweights on that side to counterbalance the camera. So, as you can see, I now have the camera pointing down where I can easily use it, and I can show things pretty handily. So, it seems to work. There's a little bit of vibration, as you can tell, but I'm working without a counterweight, so that's not really a big deal, and we'll see how it does.